Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started. Hopefully everybody sees the link to the Prezi presentation in your chat box, and you're able to pull it up. I'm going to be doing a remote presentation that should go along with you. I'm Ben Orbach. I'm the Director of American Official Ambassadors, and so over the next 10 minutes or so, I'd like to introduce our initiative and give you some details on our summer service internship program. We've had 49 students from 3 different universities or colleges do this program over the last 3 years. And hopefully you got from Kathleen a one-pager that goes along with the presentation, has different kinds of details about dates and application deadlines. And then if you don't have that, there's a link in the chat box to our website which has all that information. And then can you give some sort of indication if you're following along with the Prezi and that's working? Maybe just type an OK in the chat box. Okay, good. Well, Katrina, you're going to speak for everybody then. So to start off with, I want to introduce you to a couple of our alumni who've done this program over the last 3 years. This first one is Amber, and she recently graduated from Duke University with a BA in Middle East Studies. And this picture on the left is a village in Morocco where we send volunteers over the summer to teach French. So Amber interned with Amber interned at the Azu Center, town right outside of El Akhwin University. And the Azu Center is this great local community organization that offers all different kinds of programs to at-risk youth and to adults who live in the community. They also have a hospital where they offer medical services to people in the community. They never actually offered English classes before, though, and so 3 years ago, we sent Amber and another one of our unofficial ambassadors from the University of Maryland to teach English at the community center. And for those of you who are familiar with Morocco, English at best is the 4th language there. People speak Arabic, Berber, and French is the language of professional business. And with Amber and the other unofficial ambassador, Joelle, who taught English there, this was a new opportunity for people in that community in order to advance themselves and to learn English, and particularly for at-risk youth who are looking for different kinds of jobs that could enter into the tourism sector. This was a totally new chance to help people in the community do something that they actually wanted to accomplish and have the resources to achieve. So Amber and Joelle, the other unofficial ambassador who taught English, they did such a remarkable job over that summer that we've been able to send unofficial ambassadors there for the next 2 summers, and it's the only time out of the year that the Azu Center is able to offer English to its community. Moving on to a different of our alumni, this is Lisa Lott, who also recently graduated from Georgetown University here in Washington, D.C. And Lisa Lott is, or was, a Division I tennis player at Georgetown, and she was an international health major. And so we sent her to Zanzibar 2 summers ago. We have a relationship with the Ministry of Education there. And Lisa Lott was actually supposed to teach English at a public high school there. And when she got there, it became clear that the chemistry teacher at the high school had gone on maternity leave and that the students there did not have a chemistry teacher, and they were basically just learning out of their textbooks. And so Lisa Lott, being a hard-charging Division I athlete, said that she wanted to volunteer as their chemistry teacher, and she ended up teaching their chemistry classes for the rest of the school year. And that's not an ideal situation to have someone who's not a chemistry teacher teach chemistry, but when you think about what the alternative is of students not having a chemistry teacher, or really any teacher, it's another example of being able to provide a new or better resource to a local community that might not have it, and that's a picture. Zanzibar is this group of 4 islands off of mainland Tanzania. It's a picture of it's a terrible looking place. Another example of one of our I want to tell you about is Oksana, and she's pictured here on the left. Oksana is still a student at the College of New Jersey, and she's pre-med, and 2 summers ago she volunteered at the only autism NGO in Tajikistan. And autism is treated in a difficult way in Tajikistan, and that almost everyone who is autistic and whose family can't figure out the best means of taking care of their children are institutionalized by the state. And so there's this phenomenal NGO partner led by a really dynamic leader who finished medical school, and she had her 3rd child. Her 3rd child was autistic, and she moved to India for a year with her son, her autistic son, and she learned English there, and she learned autism, and she came back to Dushanbe, and she opened up this NGO that does advocacy for autistic families, but also offers different kinds of play therapy and activities and training for families to take care of their children. And so 2 summers ago, Oksana and another student from the College of New Jersey spent the summer at this NGO, and as you can imagine, given the state of autism and treatment of autism in Tajikistan, the state's not supportive with funds or any other kinds of support, and so this NGO is entirely reliant upon international funding for its survival. And so if you think about that and how does a small non-governmental organization attract international funding, the website would be crucial to their work, but they didn't have a website. And so Oksana and this other young woman designed a website for them, set it up, and then trained their staff in how to mirror the website in Russian and Tajik language so that this could be a point of credibility for the organization. And then last summer, we sent an intern to go and continue working with the organization, both in terms of playing with the children and doing different kinds of group activities with them, but also to do website maintenance and support for the staff, and to do different donor research, funding research. Last example I wanted to mention is Courtney, who recently graduated from Washington College in Maryland with a degree in art history. And a couple of summers ago, we sent her to Yogyakarta, Indonesia, to work with a organization that is counseling and supporting victims of domestic abuse. And Courtney studies art history at Washington College, and she did a lot of different kinds of research on art therapy. And in working with these different counselors at this organization, Rifka Anissa in Indonesia, they had never been exposed to art therapy before. And so she put together a number of workshops for them over the course of that summer to train them in using art therapy to work both with adults and with children as part of their counseling techniques. And so the reason why I start off with our alumni is, I know that we have both students and administrators and professors watching this, is that I hope that you can see yourself in the shoes of our other unofficial ambassadors that have gone through this program. And I've put our mission up here as a slide, and our idea is that each one of us has a role to play in achieving this mission, and that we have this vision of a world where Americans from all walks of life and different backgrounds, they strive to build mutual respect, prosperity, and dignity with our counterparts in the Muslim world. And I'll say that this work doesn't happen in a vacuum. That I've been studying these issues and working on these issues for about 20 years at this point, both in and out of government, previously at the State Department. And not since 9/11, the days after 9/11, has our discourse been any worse on these subjects. The level of ignorance any greater, and the need for each one of us to do something really that much more important. And the reason why I take a minute or two to talk about our mission and not just launch into the details of the summer service program is that it's really important for those of us who join us that we're not a travel company, we're not a for-profit company. Actually, about 20 to 25% of our program fees have been subsidized over the last 3 years by outside donors who believe in this mission, and that we're doing all of this work and our different programs in order to create some type of change, and that if everything goes well, it's actually the case that we will break even rather than this isn't any sort of money-making operation. With all of our programs, I'm going to focus on the summer service internship program today, but with all of our programs, these are the 3 goals that we seek to accomplish. And pictured on the right there are young men at a high school in Indonesia where we send volunteers to go and teach over the summer in a special program. And so when you look at that first goal of impact human development challenges, those young women have determined that they learn English and that will help them become better citizens, to gain different kinds of economic opportunity, and it's something that we're following their lead on and helping them as an untapped resource to achieve. The second thing, in terms of dispelling stereotypes, that generally the people who we work with, they've had no first-hand interaction with Americans or other Westerners, and when they think about the United States, they think about the West, then most recently they might think about some of Donald Trump's comments and what are views of Muslims, or if they think about it from a foreign policy perspective, our war in Iraq, or perhaps our lack of action in Syria. And so what we're doing with our program is, pick on Katrina here, we're taking young people like Katrina and we are sending them into these communities, and we want for Katrina to become their image of the United States and to counter their stereotypes that they have and that to challenge them in a productive way. And then the third piece of our programs is that we want for you, Katrina, to come back to the United States and to share these young women in your communities. And all of our unofficial ambassadors have a commitment to blog about their experiences on our blog, and also to give community presentations. And that if we talk about these young women rather than the other images that we do on TV on a regular basis, then it helps to chip away at some of the different levels of benign ignorance that we face at the grassroots level here in the United States. So to get to our summer service internship program, we're running this program in 4 different countries this upcoming summer, and as I mentioned, the dates and the application details are all available on our website. Each one of these internships, depending upon which country and how long of a commitment you're interested in making, is a full-time 5 to 8 week placement, either with a school or an NGO in one of these 4 countries. And a couple of the features that characterize our program, the first is that with each one of our partners on the ground, we create a very specific scope of work for what it is that you as an intern/volunteer will do with that school or NGO, whether it's teach English classes or whether it's do research for funding proposals. But we've gone to this partner and we've worked out with them what will best help them to advance their mission. At the same time, prior to your departure, we do individual sessions with each one of our unofficial ambassadors to help them put together an individual work plan that outlines their personal and their professional goals. And then we have check-ins along the way to help coach our interns in how are they doing with achieving those different goals. And then when they come home, what are the next steps towards accomplishing those goals, whether it's academically, if they're going back to school, or if they've graduated, as they go out into the workforce. So this is really an individualized program, but it also takes advantage of economies of scale and a group component. We place 6 to 10 interns in a country at the same time, and you either live together on a university campus, or in shared apartments in downtown in Dushanbe or in Stonetown in Zanzibar. With each of our programs, we offer language classes 3 times a week. They're not language classes for credit, but that are a chance to improve survival skills in the local dialect of Arabic, for instance, in Morocco, or in Bahasa in Indonesia, Kiswahili in Zanzibar, or in Tajikistan there's a choice of Farsi, Tajik, or Russian language classes. And this is really an opportunity to be a better cultural ambassador while you're there. That we also set up a series of cultural trips to get to better know the country and the place while you're there. And then the group joins together in reflection sessions on a weekly basis to discuss their experiences and challenges they're facing and opportunities and other areas of citizen diplomacy. You know, I spoke a little bit about our mission and what's in it for all of us when you serve as an unofficial ambassador in this program. I think it's really important that students advocate for themselves and think about what's in it for them. You know, through this internship, you have an opportunity to earn academic credit. We have a relationship with the College of New Jersey where you can earn 4 credit doing a concurrent internship course. We also have a number of different individual relationships we've set up in the past with various colleges or universities to do independent studies and to supervise that. People who finish our program successfully earn a certificate in diplomacy. I mean, they've done 180 hours of direct service, 60 hours of indirect service, and they've completed their blog posts and their community presentations. That certificate in citizen diplomacy is something you can put on your resume and an invitation to talk about the cross-cultural experiences and language skills that you've gained by an experience like this in a job interview. Unquestionably, you're thrust into situations where you have to work in groups with people who come from absolutely different backgrounds and bring the project that you're working on to a successful conclusion, or at least to move it down the road a little bit in a productive way. As I mentioned, there's also these opportunities to publish that each one of our interns is expected to put together 4 different blog posts over the course of the internship, and that's something as well to put on your resume that differentiates you from other applicants. And then we also have a mentoring program for the graduates of our program where we match people up with professionals in the field, whether it's in international development or education, and that's something that I think is extremely beneficial to people as they try to navigate what's still an improving but difficult job market. What are the different kinds of placements that you could find yourself in or that you would choose? All of these are listed on our website under each country, and with our application process you actually apply to specific placements and list your top 3 choices. We primarily put people in non-governmental organizations that are working on these issues. We also put people in schools, as I'll show right here on our next slide, different kinds of schools and what they teach, both primary and high school. If we have French speakers in the group, a lot of our placements in Morocco are actually for French speakers, and it's a chance to use your French language skills in a non-traditional way. You don't have to be interested in becoming a professional teacher to do one of these placements in education. You do need to have experience working with young people or teaching, but that I think of this that if you want to get into international development, that if you want to work in a field of sociology or public health, that the public schools in Zanzibar, for instance, are ground zero for understanding, you know, a country or a place or a community, the different challenges and the opportunities that arise out of it. What I'll close with is saying is that I think a lot of people over the course of their undergraduate experience are looking for a signature experience and something that is going to change the way or push them along a path when they graduate in a certain direction. And you know, they say picture's worth 1,000 words. This is Emma, who taught English in Zanzibar a couple summers ago, and I think that picture really says everything in terms of the idea that these kinds of experiences change your life. They change what your interests are. They change. I mean, I think back on my own study abroad experience 20 years ago. That lifelong friends that you create in the process, career trajectories that you head off into because of these experiences, and just the way that you touch other people's lives who you don't even know yet, in such a positive way, and helping them, as I talked about with Amber and Lisa a lot, and the others at the beginning, in terms of achieving things that were not necessarily on tap within their own communities. So I'll leave it there, and we got time for a few questions. We started a few minutes late, I'm sorry, but we can certainly take a few questions, and let me check if there's anything that popped up in the chat box. No, I don't see any questions there. So Holly, Ryan, Rachel, Katrina, any thoughts?
Okay. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am curious about the tuition part of this, in that I do send students to developing countries in the summer, and I send about 50 every year into a variety of places. I'm very interested in your mission, and I don't have places in the countries where you work. One of the key components, though, we finance our students, but we don't cover tuition costs, and I'm wondering if it's a requirement as part of your fees, or is that something they would not have to do?
No, it's not a requirement. So if you take a look on our website, we have program fees with tuition and without tuition. And so it's not a requirement. Just for a number of students, it really changes the value proposition for them if they can get 4 credits to transfer in. And they look at it differently. I mean, these are great experiences for professional development, but if you also look at it from, well, how does this get me closer to my degree, then we're able to help in that way. But it's certainly not a requirement.
Okay. And if I could ask one other, and that is, the countries where you're working, I work at a university that is always concerned about liability and problems, and obviously I pay quite a bit of attention to that myself. I'm wondering, you've been around, I think it said you've had 49 students so far. I'm just curious of any type of problems they've encountered, especially in regard to safety, and I see the slide here.
Right. This is, to me, is my favorite question and the most important. I don't put it in the initial presentation because we only had a few minutes. We talk about taking responsibility for safety with our interns from the get. One of the 4 primary objectives of our program, and it's the most important thing. With each one of these placements, we've handpicked these organizations. I used to do this at the State Department, doing civil society strengthening programs in the Middle East, and so we have a criteria we go through in picking each of these organizations and their mission and their buy-in to our mission. We have a full-time country coordinator on the ground in each one of these places who visits each site on a weekly basis and also meets individually with each volunteer on a weekly basis and facilitates the reflection sessions. The housing, as I mentioned, is critical to this, that we do the same kind of hand-picking as far as the apartments, and then in Indonesia and in Morocco, we house people in dormitory housing and university campuses. One of the key areas of risk that we've identified in these different countries is actually transportation. So if an internship placement is more than a 15-minute walk from the housing, part of the program fee covers transportation to and from the internship placement on a daily basis in a car. Like in Indonesia, for example, we prohibit our interns from riding on mopeds. That's probably the most dangerous thing for them there. And then the other key point to add in here, aside from all the different risk planning that we do and the monitoring of different resources and local networks, is that we provide all of our volunteers with a cell phone so that they can be reached in the event of a national emergency, or that they can reach out in the event that they run into difficulty.
Right.
And I could talk about this for a much longer period of time, and I'd be happy to do that with you if you have more questions on it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, or Ryan, or Rachel, any questions? Okay, so let me type my email in the chat box. Did I spell it right? Yep, I did. Okay. Please feel free to reach out to me or watching on video later with any questions. And Holly, I'm happy to continue this conversation as specific to programs at Notre Dame. Thank you guys for taking the time to learn a little bit more about our work. I appreciate it.
Thank you.